Was there one thing that happened maybe that you decided to go from a solo person, music-wise and living-wise, to more of a groups person, family man?
Yeah, well, the family itself, having children, that'll immediately, turn your whole perspective of life, upside down, in a good way. And I had begun to feel like I was growing away from the Headphone Masterpiece anyway as a writer, because by the time everybody else got the record, I had already been playing it underground for like a year or two. So I was already, feeling like, okay, well, I need some more material, and whenever I write something, I really want to be into it 100%. So the Headphone Masterpiece, I had already given everything I felt I could give to it. So my child being born, me feeling that way about, evolving and growing all came together at the same time. It was the perfect time. So I moved away from the scene altogether. I went from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood and, LA to a very small rural town in the state of Florida, in the US. And I live out in the country, in the rural side of town. So it was perfect just to gain completely different perspective on life, kind of clear my head, listen all over again, and then take a new fresh approach.
The songs that you've written, are they autobiographical?
A few of them are. Some
are.
of them, I'm interpreting other people's experiences, trying to give voice, to their life stories as well.
Okay, well, I think there's some nice things on the album.
Thank you.
Lyric-wise.
Thank you, Vil.
Yeah, thank you. No, really. Maybe it's about your life, maybe someone else's life, but well, let's check. Well, the first thing, of course, everybody's brother. Yeah, yes. I think many people has a question. Yeah. Well, drugs, someone who's on drugs, but also I used to do two dog ladies. Mm-hmm. I read somewhere that was more about you. Is it true?
That's the autobiographical part of that song is me with the women, and how I betrayed the trust of my wife and relationships before. Really not understanding commitment. So are you familiar with the term dogging ladies? Yeah. So that's what it was for me. The smoking crack was family members, other members of the community that I witnessed, lead, destructive lives for almost 15, 20 years. But I'd never heard a song that addressed it in a real way. So that's why I wanted to touch on that, but also touch on how there's progress, there's movement away from those things, being bogged down with destructive living, but at the same time, finding redemption and finding a new perspective on life and moving forward. So, but yes, that's it, having people that I know that have gambled, gambling addiction, completely abandoning their families out of selfishness, So I felt like it was the most, the realest way to approach these real social issues that are still, pressing in my community and worldwide.
Did your wife address you? Did she say to you, well, stop doing this or I will leave? Or did you do it yourself and said, well, this is not good for me?
No, I was, thank God I was smart enough to do it before she said, I'm going to leave, because I had an amazing experience in Los Angeles where my wife found out about my infidelities. And I was expecting her to leave. I really was. But thank God she didn't. And I valued her enough to change my life and to, understand the commitment that's required, to make that relationship work.
But did it take long for you to change your life? Did it take long to actually change your habits? Or?
Not long, but it was a process, because you're talking about, at that point in time, I was maybe 29 or 30 years old. So, that's a lot of life to have to kind of, wrap your head around it and change habits, and get a new perception of who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. I had to get a new perception of my manhood, my own manhood, and what that was all about. And so it took me, I guess, a few years till I got to the point where I was really, strong in it. I made a decision, but I still had to grow in that decision.
What does your wife think of this song? What did she say when she heard this song?
Oh, she loves it. She loves it because, once she found out about my infidelities, it was a very open conversation. you know, and so the song reflects that openness. You know, it allowed me to be that much more free with my thoughts. You know, I could now actually speak about the kind of man I used to be.
Was it hard for you to actually write this open?
Not at all.
No.
That's what I learned from the Headphone Masterpiece, that being as open made it better for me as a writer. You know, I enjoyed listening to, you know, the honesty of it.
And I think that the person that you are describing who's doing the crack, I think it's your uncle?
Yeah, one of my well, actually, a couple of my uncles, actually. But not just, you know, my family members, you know. Crack hit, you know, my community, the black community, like a storm, you know, like a tidal wave, you know. So I wanted to, once again, you know, frame that experience, you know, and how it really affected us. You know, so yeah, it's many people, but that was the closest thing to me, you know, my uncles.
Are they clean now?
Yes, two of them.
Two of the how many?
Two of my uncles, yeah, they're much better now. But I still have one that's still battling with it. Yeah.
What do they think of this song?
They haven't heard it yet, but I hope they hear it soon, because I have another family member that bought the record and he really loves it. So I'm hoping that he'll share it with the uncle that used to have to battle crack addiction. Yeah.
How come you think your community has been hit so hard by this?
That's a very complex question. But as we know historically, you know, any poverty-stricken area always gets the worst treatment in society. And so I think, you know, those who had the power to bring that kind of substance in already felt like there wasn't much value in that community in the first place. So why not, you know, bring this demonic, you know, destructive element in, you know. So I think at its roots, just, you know, there wasn't much value placed on the community in the first place, and that's how something like that is allowed to happen.